When I was a kid, there used to be this commercial that would come on where you'd see a frying pan, and there'd be some butter frying in the frying pan, and they'd drop some eggs into the frying pan, and they'd say, "This is drugs for the butter." And then when the eggs hit, they'd say, "This is your brain on drugs." And I've been thinking about this because there was this article in The Atlantic the other day talking about how, as a consequence of AI, some people are going to get smarter and some people are going to get dumber. And I thought that was kind of funny. And it really got me thinking about, what are the effects of AI on the brain? We don't really know. And I have to admit that I have observed a couple of phenomenon myself. One which is that it kind of does fit into that drug culture paradigm, whereby people who are into it are very into it and enthusiastic about it and quite happy when they find somebody else who's also into it. And if you're not into it, well, you kind of get that, those dirty hippies feeling from them. You know what I'm saying? Now, I guess that would put me in the user category, right? Because I quite like using AI. I find it quite a remarkable invention. And I have to admit, unlike anything else, let's say, how if you go to a conference or something like that, and there's a certain kind of feeling, certainly, like, especially if there's like a really good speaker and captivating, and you walk out of it feeling like you learned something, like you were armed with some new information, and there's a sort of a rush. You enjoy learning, right? On some level, you always do. Um, all of a sudden, when you have those sort of moments of understanding, or those eureka moments, or those discoveries, uh, it's stimulating, and you can kind of feel that you have a bit of a rush or an energy from that newfound knowledge. Um, and AI is very much like that. I mean, in some ways, if you look back to the original days of the internet and being able to search things online, and all of a sudden, hey, you didn't have to go to the reference library. Because I am old enough to remember when you really had no other choice but to go to the reference library and deal with index cards and microfiches and all those kinds of fun things that we used to do out in public. And then the internet came along and we could look it all up online. And wow, this is going to democratize learning. And now AI comes along and, well, geez, you can get an entire essay on just about anything you want to know. Now, again, I find it incredibly stimulating. And the point that I was getting at is that, to the extent that one can feel one's own neuroplasticity, I don't think there is anything that has stimulated me quite this much. I mean, I think the last time, I certainly remember when I was studying sound design and studio engineering in Montreal for that. There was like what is it, 2-year program, I guess. And for that period, I found it all just very stimulating. Again, I felt my brain was alive. I was learning. Well, AI is like that times 100, to the extent that it's like, wow, I almost feel myself changing. Now, personally, I find that all really positive. The things I've learned over the past year and a bit, the skills that I've acquired, um, and the pace at which I've acquired those, I think have all been huge positives. But again, one can't help but wonder, you know, for example, here's a question. So I'm sure a lot of people are aware of this, that, one of the worst punishments that exists in prison is isolation. Humans do not do well in isolation. That is clear. And make no mistake, I advocate having some friends, having a robust social life, and family and friends, I think, are important. But I'm just, as a thought exercise here, would, if somebody in complete isolation, it is known that they would go insane. Now, if somebody was alone but had AI to chat with, would they go insane? Would they still go insane? Or would the AI actually function sufficiently as some kind of a connection to some other form of intelligence? We'll call it that. I don't know. Food for thought, my friends.